are you of the thought process where there's hope coming out of the 49ers game, just given what we saw from Fields, or the fact that the Bears scored 2 touchdowns offensively? They lost to double digits to a sub 500 49ers team that hadn't won in 42 days. Where are you at with that, Joey?
Well, keep in mind the Chicago Bears have lost 3 games in a row as well. So we were building on our own streak while we played them at the exact same time. And to kind of capitalize the previous point that we were talking about, the Bears over the last 3 games are averaging 150 rushing yards. They're allowing 160. So that's the big issue right there on top of it, and something that I think Steelers fans can probably look forward to take advantage of. Just kind of do a previously on with Justin Fields, and Corey, you can back this up with me. We've been on it since the very beginning. This has all been just trying to get Justin Fields to make progress every single week. We know that there are going to be bumps in the road. It's not going to be a linear path. But this past week against the 49ers was especially something that I think we can all call progress. It's been a bit of comedy of errors at times with the Chicago Bears offensive. We were worried about our offensive line and a play caller who didn't necessarily recognize that you need to bring in chip help with tight ends and you need to do max protect. And then as he slowly began to figure that out after the Browns game, we saw some progress with the Lions game. We saw a little progress with that Raiders game, even though it was on the road. And then all of a sudden you kind of go back and revert back to your old self with the Buccaneers. So tepidly, the Bears fans, and I think everyone should be very happy about Justin Fields. I think, Corey, man, you can back me up on this one because this was your point made all along. Yep. It's now going to be about how does he play this week against, obviously, T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, an amazing, I think a really, really talented Steelers defense. But again, taking that on the road. And Corey, hop in, man. This is something you've been talking about a lot, man. The difference between a rookie playing at home, getting that feel for it, being decisive with the football, and then taking it, away from Soldier Field.
Yeah, what we've seen from Justin Fields is 2 really good performances. We're both at home at Soldier Field. And Ike, you can attest to this playing. Pittsburgh is a tough place to play for an opposing quarterback. The terrible towels are out there. The crowd gets into it. And it's a different thing when you have to do those silent counts offensively. And the Bears' O-line has been kind of shaky with pass protection at times. So then there's a different element of thinking for Justin Fields. He has to worry about that, the silent counts, trying to get some of those checks, doing signals as opposed to talking because it gets really loud in there. So in the games he's really struggled, it's been on the road, in a hostile environment where things have been going haywire. So I'm very interested to see how he's going to come out and perform on the road. Pittsburgh, a tough place to play, especially with T.J. Watt coming off the past couple of weeks he's had, and we've kind of struggled against some top pass rushers in there.
I mean, how I look at the Chicago Bears is I'm looking at how you should use Justin Fields against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and just on all the way to next year, you want to use his legs first. So I know a lot of OCs want to throw first, but for Justin Fields, I feel like just watching his tape, man, he's more comfortable using his legs first. Like, the man do know how to slide. He do know how to get out of bounds. He's not taking the hits that he once was taking when it came to the preseason. So I think Justin Fields, if they have any kind of chance, you want to get him comfortable, especially on the road, by using his legs. So I think they kind of figured that part out. Like, we got to let the young man run. As much as we don't want him to run because he is our franchise, he is our future, we should let him run because he's not just being aggressive on just running and trying to dive for the first down. He's sliding. He is getting out of bounds. So that's what I think the recipe for a hurt Chicago Bears, down 2 of their running backs, a hurt Chicago Bears, not really having a solid tight end. Do have Allen Robinson at the wide receiver position, but you got a guy who makes it 11 on 11. That's a quarterback who can run. I think the Chicago Bears, from this point on, until next year, man, let the man use his legs to get him comfortable, to get him confident, to get him started on using his legs.
And guys, from last week in the 49ers game, the biggest difference, the progression I saw from him was in the previous weeks, he was looking down the field too long, holding the ball, looking at the first, second, third, and fourth read. When this week he looked at the first, the second progression. When it wasn't there, he tucked it and went. And that's why he had over 100 yards, and he had some scrambles, 20, 30 yards. He had that Michael Vick type 4th and 1 play where he used his feet, and that's what separates him. And Ike, you know that playing against a guy like Michael Vick, that is a nightmare matchup, not only for defensive backs, linebackers, but think about, the front four, a guy like T.J. Watt trying to catch a guy like Justin Fields. That's a nightmare matchup. And then you talk about the running game, some of those RPOs, some of those zone reads, some of those design runs. It provides such a different element, and game planning for people like that, it's a nightmare for any defensive coordinator because they have to go through all the checks, You have to make sure your gap discipline, assignment sound. You got to make sure everybody has Justin Fields at tab. So that's why I'm hoping going forward they can really utilize him like they did last week.
The thing I do like about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they cool with the RPOs and they do well on running attacks because they do see Lamar Jackson twice a year. So they do Lamar Jackson attack. So they kind of used to a running quarterback. Coach T got to figure it out with the RPOs and the run zones. But I'm just looking at it from a Chicago Bears perspective, man. I just think Chicago right now until next year, man, or to the end of the year, they just need to let Justin Fields be comfortable, especially on the road, just using his legs for right now.
Yeah, I think these are all great points, too, that are also backed by stats. 41 dropbacks Sunday against the 49ers. He was 4 of 4 passing on designed rollouts. He had 89 out of his 103 yards rushing when they had those designed rollouts. So design those plays, make that part of the play design. Don't just make it to where Fields has to improvise and make those plays off script. Yes, he can do that, but design those in. And especially if you're talking about a quarterback running the football, and we know this with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, you're talking about adding an additional blocker that you normally wouldn't have. You just, turn the ball, take the snap and turn it and hand it to the running back.